Round one of the Open Championship is in the books, and we thought Shane Lowry would have the lead by himself after a 5-under par. Xander Schauffele was up there. JT played great in the morning, but lo and behold, it's some cat that most of us have never heard of before who is leading the Open Championship. Will Gray, go ahead and tell us who the heck Daniel Brown is.
I'm a big fan of Da Vinci Code. It's anything Tom Hanks does, it's great. It was a good book. Listen, if you knew who Dan Brown was before today, credit to you for reading the entire field list more thoroughly than I did. But this is what can happen. We've seen some curveballs at this event before. You think back to Tom Lewis in 2011. Paul Dunn is an amateur leading this event for a while. It's been 15 years since Tom Watson hit the board. So here you go. It's not often you get a leader. It's still 35-1 after the first round. But kudos to him for picking a good day to have the round of his life.
And I'm going to say, pretend that I knew all about it. Come on. How did you not know that he opened with a 65 last week at the Genesis Scottish Open? So, he started well last week as well. He's a DP World Tour winner. He's had 2 top 5s on the DP World Tour this year, but he's missed about 8 straight cuts before the Genesis Open this as well. So, look, I've had to look that up in the player media guide if I'm being fair and being real. And look, yeah, you always get an outlier, don't you? You always get one of these guys. And, of course, and we were joking about this, you always know someone in the last groups is going to do it, by the way. Someone in the last few groups is going to come through and make you wait to see. And honestly, if you were on Shane Lowry, first round leader, I'm really sorry. That stinks. That really sucks.
Yeah,
that was a hard ride.
That's one where you just take a lap and maybe take tomorrow off because you gotta let that one breathe.
So what we're here to do is help people adjust their bets for round 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. Not just picking winners. We're talking all markets here. Top 5, top 10s, any other kind of prop bets. But we should start, guys, with the outright winner because it is pretty interesting, Will. The fact that you've got 3 guys, you've got the 3 favorites right now, all around the same-ish odds. In Lowry, Scheffler, and Xander Schauffele, and then a big drop. Justin Thomas is 1,400. Ben, your whole shtick usually is only these 3 guys can win, but I think everybody knows it's not just these 3 guys.
Yeah, not in an open, mate. Not in an open championship. We can't say just 3 guys. We can go all the way. Honestly, I'd go all the way to maybe 2 over, even. Still technically in this thing with 3 rounds to go. Outside that, maybe you're pushing it. But look, Scotty Scheffler, deserved favourite if you look at the fact that he did hit it very well, is near the top in strokes, going to approach again. Just it was the typical Scotty, right? Like he missed the putts when he had the chances. He's going to keep giving himself chances. If he starts to make them, the other guys are in trouble. Shane Lowry, you were there, like basically putted the dots off it again, right? Like in the PGA. Can he keep it up through 4 rounds? He didn't at Valhalla, so we'll see. And Xander was kind of sneaky good. And we didn't really talk about Xander in the lead-up, so that makes me worried.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was interesting hearing from Shane Lowry talking about, there's a lot of guys that got tripped up today because the wind was blowing in a different direction from what it usually does at Royal Troon. So the first few holes are playing more tough than they should have. The back nine was playing a little easier. But he credited a practice round that he played 2 weeks ago. He said, I came back out here 2 weeks ago. I played this course in every wind possible, including what today's wind. And honestly, it's probably going to be tomorrow's wind as well. But he said that, usually coming off the American courses on the PGA Tour, you get to, the links part of the season over here in the UK, and he has a tough time acclimating on the greens. Did not have that issue during that practice session 2 weeks ago. He was impressed with how he was putting it. It certainly showed in a big way today. But Ben, you hit the nail on the head. Of those 3 that Chris showed on that leaderboard, I'm Team Xander. I really think that he did exactly what he needed to do in the opening round. I think that we didn't talk about it much, even though he's the reigning PGA champion and top 3 in the world and one of the betting favorites. But he was steady and solid and everything you need. And I do think that looking ahead with possibly some tough conditions on Saturday, he's a mutter. He's someone that can hang in there. And I think that Xander, of those 3, is the one that I'd be backing at this point.
He's a grinder, and of the 3, he's the putter, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's the one that you can say that the putter will probably stay there. Whereas Lowry, look, he's shown he can get streaky hot, but 4 rounds, I don't know. And obviously Scheffler, we know we can't rely on the putter. We need him to hit it even closer than he did today and make more than he did. So Schauffele scares me from here. I think he's in great position. The name that's the value just on that graphic right there, if I can just take us somewhere else quickly, Chris, is Højgaard.
Højgaard.
I don't think he's just not getting any any rep out of what he's able, where he is. We talked about Ludwig Oberg in the lead up. Obviously, he's proven himself a little bit more than Nikolai, but they're both Ryder Cup rookies from last year. They're both stars. They're both studs. I mean, if you look at value just on leaderboard position, that one stands out to me.
We sat there in the morning and watched Justin Thomas take the solo lead. And just about all of us, I say just about because I'm not saying Justin Thomas is going to win. I thought it was a good idea to look at him of what he could potentially do. Now, on this board, let's go through each of us. What are you feeling comfortable betting on with Justin Thomas? Personally, me feeling good about him in general, maybe. I still wouldn't go more than top 10, Will. I wouldn't.
Throw out the stat, Will. Throw it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't feel good about it either. That's about as low as I would go, just because I wouldn't like to lay minus 230 price of the top 20. I think JT is due for some regression. We saw it last week. He opens with a 62 at Renaissance, didn't break 70 the rest of the way, finished outside the top 60. And I know one of our stats that we came across today from our colleague Sean Martin is a great one. This is the fourth time that JT has opened an open with a round in the 60s. And each of the other three times he shot 77 or worse in the second round, including here at Troon in 2016. The issue with Justin Thomas is never the ceiling, it's the floor. It's that he can't avoid that 6, 9, 12-hole stretch where things get a little bit squirrely. I think that's still going to come. And conversely to what I said about Xander, and we talked about this on Roundtable earlier in the week, I don't trust JT if the conditions get blowing a little sideways and the rain starts getting squally. Those are not Justin Thomas conditions in my mind. So I do think that, honestly, if you have minus 140 for outside the top 10, I would probably take that more than minus 230 to be inside the top 20.
Over, under 72.5 tomorrow.
Well, it depends on conditions, but I'm thinking.
I think tomorrow is going to be the easier of the 4 days if the Scottish weather forecast can be trusted. So I might take the under if it's a par 71, but barely just. It would not surprise me with him going out in the afternoon. If he puts up a 73 or 74, it was interesting that today there was like a 2-hour stretch in the late afternoon, like around 5 o'clock local time, where the winds really did die down. I think that Shane Lowry was among those guys that benefited from that stretch where in the morning it was pumping. It was 15, 20 miles an hour and playing from a difficult direction. If those conditions, again, are a little bit calmer in the afternoon, maybe JT skirts by. Maybe there's a little edge for his side of the wave. But, I don't trust him to put up another score in the 70s or in the 60s, I'll tell you that much.
I wouldn't touch any of those numbers. That's where I'm at. I wouldn't touch any of them. Sorry, JT. I did say earlier in the week when we talked about him, I said, look, he's the type of guy, if you show him this, us writing him off, maybe it helps. But, Will, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said he's going to have squirrely, he's going to start having, spots where he's struggling. He did that today. We saw that today. And I think he got lucky in that stretch. I think there were a few times where the bounce helped him, when he didn't get into too much bad trouble. He could have been in the gorse a few times quite easily. He's a candidate to just fly one OB. Like we saw a couple of players off the first just flail it out right over the fence. And that's a double, or miss one left OB and then all of a sudden you've got a quad, like those were out there today. And JT speaks to that type of player in my mind at this time. It's funny because if this was 3 years ago or whenever he was playing his best, the number 1400 would not exist here.
No, it'd be like a third of that.
He'd be
it would have been his starting 600.
Number.
I mean, we've never seen him at that pre-tournament.
Correct. And, so it is strange to think that we've got JT, he's just played a good round and he's 14-1 and we're saying no chance. But it's much like what we talked about Rory to me. Like, it's not worth it. If he wins, good luck to him. Great. Well done, JT. I'm glad you're back, but I'm not trusting you.
So if we don't like the big name at 3 under, how about the names at 2 under and 1 under? We always call the Open Championship the Veterans Championship, right? The Veterans Major. And lo and behold, Will, we've got 3 big names in their 40s who are right there. I don't have the odds to win for any of these 3 unless somebody feels differently. Go ahead and stop me.
Come on, Scotty.
I was going to say, the sound you hear is Ben Everall just pressing the send button on Adam Scott, top 10.
Do you like any of these for top 5? Any of these for top 5?
I think Justin Rose is interesting.
Okay.
I really think that at plus 600, he could be in the mix. We've seen him come close before. Obviously, a U.S. Open champion. He's won a major, but this kind of aligns with one where, I can see him hanging around for sure. Maybe scratching out a T3 or a T4. I would take those odds, even though they're higher, more than a top 5 for Noren Ryder Scott.
I have to actually agree with Will. I think that what we saw from Rose is pretty good today, and he's a scrappy veteran. He fits the mold of, well, they both do. Rose and Scott, to me, are like what Stenson was, in 2016. Okay, they have that game. They could potentially plot along, and they can handle the conditions if they come. Right, so there's potential value there. More so for that Rose top 10. I think that's actually decent because he's at the 2 under mark. Adam Scott, you're not getting the value you should, given he's only -1. I mean, he got a little lucky, chipped in from the bunker or holed out from the bunker on his first hole in the tournament. So it wasn't quite as good as it might suggest, but he was good enough. I think he'll hang around. I think he'll probably finish in the top 10, but I like the number on Rose from this point much better.
I think what's fascinating about this is if anybody wants to bet any of these players, I think you better do it now, because when the next day comes around, when round 2 comes around, they could easily blow up number 1 and then they're gone. You're thinking you're forgetting about it and you're not going to bet on it. Or you do this now and they have another round where they play good enough, well enough, and they're still up there. They're not going to have these odds anymore, because I think people are going to assume that their round 2 is going to digress. And if they don't, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe Justin Rose top 5 shouldn't be +600, it should be +300. So do it now.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. So we talked about in the lead up that we're going to advocate where the live bets are. I think if you like any of these veterans, right now is the time, because quite simply, as you said, if they don't play well, then they're not going to rebound heavily from that point, right? It's either now or not.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's some value to be had if you pick the right spots. One of these guys is probably going to be in the mix.
So if we have the guys on top, we have these veterans. We had a lot of star power, quite frankly, not play very well in round number 1. Ludwig was trying to hang around par, couldn't do it. He imploded at the end. Victor Hovland started out okay. He started to get worse and worse. Bryson was terrible from the start. Rory was what you guys called it. I mean, Rory at +7. Let's start with Rory, Will. I mean, no one's going to advocate a top 5 for him. Can you advocate a top 10? Like, what does round 2 need to look like for a top 10? 65?
No. I mean, he's going to need a 65 to make the cut, and he's not going to have it. This is not Port Rush in 2015. Even that left him one shot short 5 years ago. But I think that he's shot, and I don't think that we're really going to see a ton from him tomorrow. There might be some moments where you see the Rory that we saw a month ago at Pinehurst, but I don't think he's going to come anywhere close to making the cut. I think of this group, I'd be back in Oberg because I think he's the informed player right now, and potentially the one that could handle the conditions a little bit better. But Rory's leaving town tomorrow. That much I think.
Yeah, gone, absolutely gone. The bottom 3 are definitely gone in my mind. I think
Bryson's the same as Rory.
Anyone, and even Victor. I don't think Victor's coming back. I think maybe Ludwig in the top right corner there of your top 20 is possible. So if you like him and you want to see and have a bit of a ride with him, you could. He could potentially rebound and play half decent. But the others, they didn't show enough. I mean, Bryson's 5 over as well. Like, he needed an eagle late. Like, he was struggling as bad as Rory, which is amazing. The two of them, 1-2 in the US Open, obviously coming in with major form. You would have got pretty decent odds that they would have been combined 12 over for one round at this tournament.
I'm not ready to say that Hovland's going to miss the cut. I know you guys might not think he's going to miss the cut either, but if he can get there on the weekend, I don't see why he can't try to skirt in with the top 20. I mean, the guy is clearly not on top of his game. We know that. And they're going to keep talking about, his short game woes are back, or his putting woes are back, or he's still having those swing demons, whatever is in his head. I feel like if Victor can make the cut, he's the kind of guy who can put up multiple rounds in the 60s on Saturday and Sunday, and a number like plus 320 right now for a top 20. If he goes and shoots 66, 67 tomorrow, you're not going to get that. But I guess what you guys are saying, Will, is that Victor can't do that tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I think it's harder for him to shoot the round tomorrow that he needs to make the cut than it is to go from that point to a top 20. Like the hardest part of that equation is tomorrow.
What do they have at the cut at right now? I don't even know. Is it is it 3?
The thing
yeah,
too
I mean,
is
it depends on how the wind blows tomorrow. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and I think the forecast isn't the potential worst day Saturday. I mean, again,
Saturday's
it's hard.
Gonna be rain, the most wind, all that stuff.
So yes, you can, if things are not so bad, you can get someone who can go out early and post a number. But if the weather is bad all Saturday, you're going to need, that limits the opportunity to do that. If, you do in opens get guys who make the cut on the number at, say, St Andrews or wherever else who can go deep for 2 days. But if you get bad weather on Saturday here, there's not likely someone going super deep 2 days in a row to do that. Look, there always generally is, though, a backdoor top 10 somewhere or top 20. Have a look around. I just don't think those guys are it. I said, outside of maybe Ludwig, and, you're not getting huge value there. You're not getting huge juice because they know that he's capable of doing it. So if you have a favourite player that's sitting, T35, T40 right now, and you just want to have some fun, look, have a little bit of a crack because it's possible. But, those guys, as I said at the start, 2 over for me is it. If you're not 2 over or better, you're done in my mind. You're not in this thing. You're not even a sniff of a hope. I think Morikawa is 2 over, and a few of those names there.
Morikawa and Cantlay. No chance at making a run at Saturday near the lead.
They can make a run, but they need to be perfect from this point on. Basically, they need to be near perfect from this point on.